Quick question. When someone leaves your business, an employee, a contractor, maybe even a supplier, like a consultant perhaps, do they know exactly what their responsibilities are after they walk out the door? Because here's the reality. The risks don't end when the contract does. In fact, sometimes that's when the biggest risks begin. This is why ISO 27001 has this particular control, Annex A6.5, termination or change of employment responsibility. Now, as ever, it sounds simple, but as with most things in ISO, the devil is in the detail. So what does the standard require? Well, it states that information security responsibilities and duties that remain valid after termination or change of employment shall be defined, enforced, and communicated to relevant personnel and other interested parties. First of all, notice one thing. It's not just about employees, it's about interested parties. So it applies equally to contractors, consultants, vendors, even customers. It's also not just about termination. It also covers role changes where access rights and responsibilities may shift. What happens, for example, if someone begins working in your sales team, but they are phenomenal also at developing, and they go from the sales team into another role, which is to move into development, or they move from your development team into a more customer facing role, maybe operations or sales and marketing, that type of thing. So let me just give you a couple of examples here, things that we've seen in the wild, as it were, that tries to bring this to life. So a customer ended their contract with one of our clients, perfectly fine. But afterwards, we found that the customer were approaching members of staff of our clients, trying to effectively poach the delivery team. Luckily, the supplier agreement had a clear clause within it that prevented this from happening, but only because we helped the client update it and put that clause in place were they able to go back to that particular customer and effectively put a cease and desist on that particular customer to stop them from trying to poach members of their team. Another example where this became really quite relevant was a disgruntled ex-employee started emailing customers directly, revealing internal pricing structures and discounts, effectively again trying to either discredit the clients, the company, or trying to poach them to go to their new employer. That caused, of course, that caused a lot of embarrassment to the primary company. There was a lot of difficult conversations that had to take place. There were contracts that were cancelled. Now, a simple exit process reminding that member of staff of their ongoing confidentiality obligations would have stopped it. And finally, here's another example. An employee changed their role within the company, but still had access to systems they no longer needed. Now, they didn't act maliciously, but due to their outdated access rights, it created a huge security loophole. Unfortunately, they'd moved several times in that organization after working there for several years. And when that organization were the victims of a phishing attack, all it took was that one employee to click on a link, which then gave the cyber criminals access not just to the sales and marketing CRM, but it also gave them access to their code repositories. It also gave them access to banking facilities, because essentially that employee had access to all of these different systems. That's why this control is so important. That's what this kind of control is there to manage. It's manage the risks associated to people who change roles or people who leave your employment. Think about it this way. Your GDPR and data protection obligations don't end just because someone leaves. Confidentiality, protection of IP, safeguarding customer data, they all remain your responsibility before, during, and even after a contract ends. So what is the auditor going to be looking for? Well, in this particular control, they're going to be looking for things like employment contracts, supplier agreements, and customer agreements with clauses that cover things like confidentiality, non-disclosure agreements, intellectual property, use of systems, the contacting of clients and suppliers or employees after departure. They'll want to see evidence of exit processes, exit interviews, termination letters, or system deprovisioning records. So access rights reviews, so that they can see that Gary, who worked in your sales department, who now works in your IT department, who now also does a little bit of work in finance, doesn't have access to all of these systems unnecessarily. You see, if breaches have happened, auditors may even ask how you handled and documented them as well. So what do you need to do? Here's some practical advice and guidance. First of all, ask yourself, do you have a process? Review your employee contracts, your supplier contracts, customer agreements. Make sure that they clearly outline obligations after termination or role change. Look for gaps around confidentiality, IP, and system access. Work with your HR function. They'll know exactly what the exit process looks like, and make sure that it is a formal exit process, that there are termination letters, exit interviews conducted, and part of that exit interview should be the review of your access and revoking of access to key systems. If there is an exit interview, also remember to include a reminder of ongoing obligations. If there's a role change, well, when someone moves internally, update your access processes, their access controls immediately, and remind them what data they are no longer entitled to see. Or perhaps if they're moving into an area which deals with more sensitive data, you need to train them, educate them, make them aware, back to a previous control, where we talk about specific requirements around that role. Because if they're moving from finance into development, then they're perhaps moving from an area that deals with very personal, commercially sensitive data, financial records, through to an area that deals with code, so more rules around intellectual property may apply. Just remember that communication is key. People often sign contracts at the start of their employment with you, and they don't think again about them for years until something bad happens and it requires them to go and take a look. So you need to, again, raise awareness and educate and train people on obligations in their particular roles, but use the exit process as a chance to remind them as well of their responsibilities. If you do this, then you won't just satisfy the auditor, you'll protect your business from some very significant risks. And here's the conclusion, here's the key takeaway for this particular control as I see it. Annex A6.5 isn't just about paperwork, it's about closing the door properly when someone leaves or they change roles, so that your information doesn't walk out with them. When contracts, exit processes and reminders are in place, you protect your IP, your customers, and your reputation. So make sure that there is a process in place. If you're sat now listening to this video and watching this video and thinking, well, I'm not sure what the process is, then you need to have a conversation with someone. Maybe that's your internal HR function, or maybe that's with me, Gary Hibbard of Consultants Like Us. This is why we specialize in this area, because we understand that information security isn't just about technology. It's about people, process, technology. It's about people, premises, processes, PCs, providers. It's about protecting your organization and your reputation. Essentially, it's compliance without complexity. We say it every time. We're here to help you put things in place that will protect you. So I hope that has been useful. As ever, if you did like this video, I'd love to see you comment. I'd love to know what you think around this particular topic. Have you ever seen it done well? Have you ever seen it done badly? Don't forget to comment and like and share it and hit that bell so that you will know about future videos. Because just remember that protecting your business doesn't stop when someone leaves. It continues long after that. So I hope this is, again, been helpful for you. And I will see you on the next video. Until then, stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.